What is up, everyone? Klein Science Guy back at it again with yet another video on periodic trends. So, we've looked at graphs. We've been able to interpret graphs to determine the trends for certain periodic trends on the periodic table. Now, we are being presented with a chart which contains some data, and we're asked to identify two elements based on this data. So, it may look intimidating to start. See a lot of numbers here, and we're not actually given the specific elements. But using the information that we know about periodic trends, we should easily be able to answer this question. We're going to do it in a CER style. So we're going to write a claim, give some evidence, and then support our claim with some reasoning. When I look at this data table, I see a lot of numbers and I see some information that could be useful for me and can be not useful. And I'm going to walk you through that to determine what is useful for you. So when I'm looking at this, I see that I have element X, which gives me ionization energy, atomic radius, electronegativity, some reactivity, and then a boiling point, and then also its state at room temperature. So when I'm looking at this, what I'm really focusing on are the periodic trends. So I'm looking at ionization energy, atomic radius, and electronegativity. I'm also looking at the reactivity because this is going to tell me where on the periodic table my element is located. Okay, so let's start with element X. I'm looking at element X and comparing the data to all the other data that's in my table. Element X has a really high ionization energy. So if I'm thinking critically and I'm thinking about the things that I know about periodic trends, I know that ionization energy is pretty high on this side of the periodic table. So that's pretty cool. Now, also, I'm looking at my atomic radius. The data tells me that I've got 100 picometers, 180, and then 160. So 100 picometers, that's smaller than these two. So I know that my smaller atomic radii are also in this corner of the periodic table on this side. Electronegativity, 3.55. That's also very high. The maximum we can have is 4.0. So that also tells me that I'm going to be hanging out in this area. And then lastly, the last piece of information that's helpful for me, reactivity. Very reactive. So I know on this side of the periodic table, I've got a very reactive group of elements that are nonmetals. My halogens are very reactive nonmetals on the periodic table. So the information that I'm obtaining from the element X row is kind of telling me that element X must be on this side of the periodic table somewhere. Now, I'm going to let you kind of think about that based on information that we've learned in class to hopefully come to a conclusion. But the evidence is leaning very closely to being somewhere in this area on the periodic table. Okay, so you would then tell me claim element X is blank, and that's it. That's your claim. 1 point. Evidence. Give me the evidence. So evidence. We've got a high ionization energy, small atomic radius, high electronegativity, and it's also very reactive. So there you go. You're given all the evidence right there. Just write it in bullet points. Lastly, reasoning. Basically, what you're doing is you are putting your evidence into words and writing me a few sentences. So you would say something like element X is blank because it has a high ionization energy, high electronegativity, and a low atomic radius. I also know that this element is in this particular group, which happens to be a very reactive nonmetal group. All right, so just breaking it apart, looking at each one of these, comparing these numbers to the other numbers that are in the chart is going to be very helpful for you as you go ahead and answer this question. Now, I don't think I really need to show you element Y because you're just doing the same exact thing that you did for element X, but you're looking at the data here, and you should hopefully be able to determine the information for element Y after you've conquered element X. Okay, so just a really quick video kind of walking you through a question like this, kind of how you would answer something like this and what ways to tackle it best. Hopefully this video helped you out. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment on anything that you have questions on still. And until next time, I will catch you later.